If there's source material, read it. You know, especially if it's a book. Read the book. Because writers tend to give you vital info about who the character is, where he came from, what he does. Sometimes they even try and explain why he's doing it, why he's doing a particular thing. And after you've done that, reread the story again to get the story in your mind. And after you read that, figure out how you feel about that character and why he's doing those things that he's doing inside that script. And once you think you know why that character is doing those things, then you figure out, okay, where'd he come from? Who is he? How old is he? Does he feel that way about this character because he has a brother or sister that, you know, is that way? You know, who are his parents? What's his educational background? Does he have a military background? Did he go to the Army? Has he ever been in jail? Is he out of jail? How educated is he? You know, is he smart, sort of smart, very smart? It's not there, and sometimes you will never have to explain that to an audience or to the other cast members. But it's important to you as a person because all those kinds of things determine how you feel about people, how you look at them, how you interpret their actions, what your prejudices are toward those people in a particular way. Are they smarter than me? Do I like that? Do I not like that? Is he dumber than me? Am I going to manipulate him because of it? And it's stuff that an audience might, or they probably won't ever know. But for you as the actor, when you're interacting with that character that you think you're smarter than, it interprets how you approach that character and how you accept what they say to you or what you think of it or what you're trying to do. And all those things are dictated by what kind of person I am. And if there's no source material to tell me what kind of person I am, then it's incumbent upon me to create a human being that's inside that story that has a full life, that feels a certain way about things because this happened to him, that happened to him, this didn't happen to him. He didn't have this advantage growing up, or he had this advantage, or he had a woman who left him, so he can't relate to women because he thinks women are all whatever and he just cannot, you know, deal with them, or he doesn't understand the female psyche, or his mom did something to him, so he can't, you know, handle, you know, family life, and he doesn't know how to be a father because he didn't have a father, or the father he had no idea how to treat him, or he watched him treat his mother a certain way or didn't do this. There are all kinds of things that you can make up about that person, but what you need is a whole person, which is something, you know, Lloyd Richards imposed upon me, Douglas Turner Ward imposed upon me, that says, whenever you're on stage, you're coming from somewhere and you're going somewhere when you leave. And do you want people to go with you when you go? So when you show up in there, you boom, you hit that moment, and when you leave, everybody's like, well, shit, I want to go with him. Where is he going? He looks like he has something on his mind. And then I had another actor tell me once, he's like, look, every time a camera passes you when you're on set, always look like it's something on your mind. Don't be standing there waiting on your line, you know, thinking about something, you know, either what that character just said or how you feel about the thing that character said, or even if you're thinking about, I need to get out of here, I'm sick of being here. People need to see that on your face, not just unless you're playing an idiot. Every scene in the movie is trying to accomplish something. So you figure out, what are we trying to accomplish from page 3 to page 9 when we're doing this scene? What is the goal of this particular scene for the movie? What information do we want to give the audience? And how do I want to give it to them? How does that relate to what's going to happen on page 99? But you can't anticipate what's going to happen on page 99 because you're not supposed to know. But you got to figure out how you go from point A to point Z in every script. like you do a play, even though you're not going to do it every night. Which is what I tell people, doing movies ain't shit. It's easy. You show up and, some days all you got to do is get in the car and do like that, or sit in the car and drive all day, But you got to have something on your mind. You got to have a goal. You have to know where you're going, why you're going, and what's going to happen when you get there, or what you anticipate is going to happen. You can't know that after page 9, this thing that happens on page 10 is going to happen. You just have to know that you're going there, and what your goal is in that particular scene is to get to that place. Period. Don't think about the rest of it. So when you start to break it down, everything is a series of goals to get from point A to point B to point C to point D, all those things. Before you start even developing the character, like I said, you look at the script and you see what his relationships are to people in the scripts, if he has some. And based on that, you figure out the personality traits that go along with that relationship. Are they intimate? Are they just casual acquaintances? Is it a stranger that's attracted to you? What makes that character attracted to you? What attracts you to that character, or what repulses you about that character that allows you to interact with them in a specific way? Do you have an idiosyncratic personality that might be off-putting to someone? What do you do to try to fix that? Or are you awkward in your relationships with people? Or are you kind of deft at getting people to listen and be drawn to you? What is that thing that draws people to you? Is it your sense of humor? Is it, something physical? Do people like the way you look? Are they repulsed by the way you look or smell? Or, are you smug and just detestable in a way? Or you think you're great and nobody else thinks you're great? As you read that story, you figure out how you interact with various characters within that story and what that means. Are there people you know? Are there people you don't know? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Are you trying to coerce them into doing something for you, with you, to you, whatever? That's what happens when I'm sitting at home, breaking down my character and what my relationships are inside that script and what I want from each character, or what each character wants from me, and how I'm going to respond to that. There are prices to pay for everything that happens. For everything has a consequence. What are the consequences of where you came from? Or you could be like the homeless woman they found in the subway, back in the 80s when I was there, and somebody killed her in the bags that she had. She had deeds to property in 4 different states and like $80,000 in cash. She used to be a broker on Wall Street and everything, but for some reason she dropped out. But she still had all that. Are you that person? Or are you a person with nothing? How would you, as that person, be? How would you change yourself in a mirror or wherever to look at yourself and say, I don't want that person to touch me, or I don't want to interact with that person? Or if I used to love that person, I don't love them anymore. Or do you look in the mirror and see a guy that you relate to, or do you look in the mirror and see a stranger or a shadow of who you were? And if you were a shell of yourself who remembered only fragments of who you were, what would those fragments be? What are the fragments that you would hold on to if you were forced to be on the street, isolated, without love, companionship? How long would it take you to lose your mind? And what parts of your mind would you keep if you were there? Those are the things. Or what parts of that character's mind would you keep according to who he was and what he's done? You know, how would you live with that? What are the clothes that you either got from a shelter or that might have been yours, or what was the taste that your sane character had that your insane character thinks he's mimicking when he puts on specific kind of clothes? Even if it's a suit, raggedy suit, overcoat, top coat, how many top coats do you have? How many do you want? You know, would you have raggedy sneakers or would you have raggedy shoes? Would you have gone to the shelter and gotten something or not? Do you go to the shelter to eat, or do you dumpster dive? You got to make choices. Do you beg for money? Do you have that kind of thing in you? Are you that kind of person that would stand on the street and hold your hand out, beg for money, and hold a sign or whatever? Or would you go around, pick up cans and bottles and take them to the recycling place to get money so you could eat? Or would you just depend on the kindness of strangers? You know, all those kinds of choices are choices that inform, you know, what kind of person you are, what your integrity level is, where you've gone, how far you've fallen, or what parts of your dignity you've held on to. You know, all those things are things that young actors can do, are choices that you can ask and make for yourself when you do that. Not just, oh, I wear raggedy clothes and I live on the street and I lost my job. You know, so you have to make decisions about that person and who you want that person to be and how you want to present yourself to the audience that's watching this, and what it means to the other characters in the script that you interact with when you interact with them. Do they feel sorry for you, and why do they feel sorry for you? Do they feel sorry for you because you're crazy or because you're homeless, or both? Do they feel sorry for you because they love you, because you were a loving individual and they wish they had that person? They want to connect with that person and you want to connect with them, but you don't know how? You know, do you rave at those people because you remember them and you can't touch them because your crazy self will not allow you to reach out and be with that person and allow them to connect with you or love you in your state? Or do you feel sorry for yourself because you love that person too, but you can't stop being who you are? You know you're crazy and you don't want to be crazy, but you can't do nothing about it. You know, there's that. All of those things, but you got to make those choices. And when you make them, you got to commit to them. And that's how that works. Once I've talked to the director about what he wants the story to be and where he wants it to go, and I speak to him about my character in terms of, okay, then how dominant do you want me to be in this particular situation or that particular situation, or what do you need from me to make this particular thing work? Then I can find some personality trait within what I've created to make that be okay or not be okay, in terms of, well, now I can act like I don't like that, you know, or I can be irritated in this particular place because I don't like people who talk like that or treat me that way. And it's another color to add to that character, whether it's interpreted or not. And somebody might pay attention to that that's watching the movie, and maybe they won't. But I'll know because I'm complete in that. And I feel like I'm the human being in that particular situation that has that thing that nobody else has, or the things that we have. I mean, sometimes we go places and things happen where we thought it was gonna be cool, and we get there and something starts happening and you wish you could be somewhere else. And sometimes that's the interaction between people in a room. And you're talking to them, yeah, and you're trying to be pleasant, but all you want this to do is be over so you can get the fuck out. And sometimes that's what that scene is for you. And you got to figure out, you know, why you're that person. And if that's the situation, then what is making you uncomfortable in this particular room? You got to go back and find something in that person and say, oh, well, maybe this happened. Or maybe he just doesn't like, you know, you find something to make it honest and real in this thing that you created for yourself. And like I said, whether you have to speak about that to somebody else on the set or not, you don't. But as that character grows in that story, people tend to feel him, or people sitting there in the audience go, yeah, I know how that feels. Or, yeah, I get that. And sometimes it's not pandering to an audience. It's giving them something that they can honestly latch onto as a feeling or a circumstance that allows them to invest themselves in the movie even more. We are there to entertain those people. So it's incumbent upon us to pull them in a specific way so that they relate to the story or they relate to a character in that story. When they hired me to do Die Hard, I realized that Zeus, my character in Die Hard, essentially is an audience member in a Die Hard movie. I'm supposed to react to John McClane the way anybody he might accidentally pull off the street and say, come ride with me or come run with me, will react. So I made Zeus that guy that when John McClane did some crazy shit, it was kind of like me looking at him like, that's what you're gonna do?
Where the hell are you going, McClane? I told you 9th Avenue is the quickest
Stop
place
all
out.
that goddamn yelling. I know what I'm doing.
Not even God knows what you're doing.
Or I thought you were smarter than that when he couldn't figure something out. It's like, you're a fucking hero. You can't figure this out? Look, it's this simple. And because people in the audience had already figured it out. They're like, yeah, it's like, look. So you have to be that person. So you become them and they can say, right on, brother. See? Yeah, you got it. So you do ordinary things in an extraordinary situation so that you don't get caught up in the craziness of who the crazy person is. So, and he's still the hero, but you're the guy they like because you're them. You're like them.
Whoa. Had a bomb? Yeah, go ahead and grab it.
Oh, you're the cop.
Man, Simon said you're supposed to be helping with this.
I'm helping
But when are you gonna start helping?
after you get the bomb.
So that's what you do. You go ahead and make yourself vulnerable and kind of, when we're watching movies sometimes and we see people do some shit and we go, really? That's what Zeus is like, really? No, I'm not doing that. Or, you gonna do that? Why don't you do this? It's simpler to just do this. So you create an honest situation so that the audience can be like, hey, that's like me. I would have done that too. And that's what you want.
Careful. Be careful.
Don't open it.
What? I gotta open it. It's gonna be all right.
Shit! I told you not to open it.
Characters in stories are characters in stories, so I don't see myself approaching a villain any differently than I do a hero. They're both people in the human realm of possibility. And I don't think their approach to society changes in terms of who you are as a person who grew up somewhere, who has a specific set of morals, goals, or whatever. The goals are just different or at polar opposites. So I don't approach them any differently. I mean, if I did that, I couldn't have played Steven in Django. When Quentin called me and told me to read it, he didn't tell me anything about it, and I finished, and I called him back and said, so you want me to play the most despicable Negro in cinematic history? And he was like, well, yeah. And I go, okay, let's do it. So I can't judge him. No, I don't judge people have their own reasons for doing things, and once I sit down and figure out who that person is and what they're doing and why they're doing it, then there's no moral judgment about it. That's just what they do. And that's how they operate in the world. Once you figure out the rules of that society and world that you're shooting the film in, then you build your character around that, and you don't make judgments about them being right, wrong, or otherwise. But like I tell people, killers don't sit around sharpening their knives and shining their bullets all day. They go to the grocery store, they drop their kids off, they got girlfriends, they might go to church, they do stuff, like Jules grew up in the church, and he has, you know, he has a morality that finally shows up at a certain point. I mean, he stood there and cold-bloodedly just shot that kid, and then all of a sudden he believes, you know, God intervened and kept them from getting killed. You know, all of a sudden his whole God thing shows up, but he's still not a moral person. So you can't, you know, judge your characters that way. You know, I see people doing that. You know, you watch movies and stuff, and you see people twirling their mustache from the time the movie comes on, and you go, oh yeah, bad guy. You know, I mean, I don't want people to necessarily know that about me immediately unless the first thing you see me do is kill somebody. And then you really don't know what my reason was for killing that person until I express it.